Hi everyone, my name is Shauna, in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. Today is a wig day because it just is. I just did a really long house sitting gig and then I came home and I immediately watched my nephew for a few hours, so I'm a little tired right now. I've also had a really bad headache all day. You know, I'm like not feeling the greatest right now. Also, my eyes are feeling like they're literally gonna start watering any second because I need sleep. But anyways, today I'm gonna be doing my June wrap up. June was Pride Month and it was like really busy, so I feel like I didn't get to do enough like Pride Month things and I didn't get to do enough like Pride Month reading. I think I only read one queer book this month. That is disappointing. Well, is polyamory considered part of the LGBTQ+ community? I've heard mixed reports on that. If it is, then I've read 2 books. I read 8 books in the month of June, so not the best reading month, but not the worst reading month. There was only 3 of those 8 books that I didn't enjoy, which actually 3 out of 8 is a lot of books, like ratio-wise. That's like over 25%. My average star rating was 3.125 stars for this month. Also, I just want to apologize in advance if the lighting starts to get like really bad as the video goes on. It is much later than I planned on filming this video, but I want to film this video the first chance that I got because I like to get my wrap-ups up in a timely manner. So yeah. So without further ado, let's get on into this. The first book that I read was an iBook that was free, and this is helping me reach my goal of reading 5 iBooks this year. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can find like a discreet cover for this book that I can post. If not, you are literally gonna see something that like isn't the most appropriate. This book is called Beckoned and is by R.B. Fields, and this is the first book of the Born of Darkness series. So I was in the mood for a vampire book, so I decided what I would do is I would go into the iBooks app, type in vampires, and see what popped up in my library, because I download like non-stop free books on the iBook store. And I download ones even if they don't seem super interesting, which is like a fatal flaw of mine. Like, why do I feel the urge to download every single free ebook that I can find? Anyways, this was one that I had downloaded a while ago, and the cover, again, hopefully I found a discreet cover. If not, like, ignore the cover. It's embarrassing. I would never own this book physically. I hate these like embarrassing covers that you get all the time on books from the iBook store. So basically, there is this emergency room nurse, and in the night, she likes to basically hunt down serial killers and help get them arrested. So she's hunting down this one serial killer, and all of a sudden the serial killer comes after her and seems to have some supernatural abilities. She soon finds out that he is a vampire. There is another vampire that comes in and rescues her, and this other vampire immediately feels some attraction to the main character. So this vampire takes the main character, I should remember her name, but I'm blanking right now. Dawn. So this vampire takes Dawn to his coven of vampires, and there is something special about Dawn that really is appealing to the guys. Yeah, so it gets into some smut really quickly. I do have to say it started off as a lot like steamy Twilight, and I was like totally fine with that. Like, I'm totally fine with Twilight. Like, yeah, it's cringy. However, I like things that are so cringy and bad that they end up being slightly enjoyable. So I was thinking I would enjoy this one. Like, Dawn is sort of like a Bella Swan type character, and Silas, the first vampire that she meets, has sort of like Edward Cullen vibes. However, after the like smut started happening, I started to get really disappointed. So we all know that I'm a sex repulsed asexual, so like I can handle reading smut in books, but like I'm just more picky about the like adult content in books because of my sexuality. I don't know if this was just because of my sexuality playing in here or if this was legitimately sort of weird. Basically, these men, after they had some adult scenes with Dawn, they would completely lose their personalities and become completely devoted to her and nothing else mattered. So I was like, where did their personalities go? Like, we had a fun group of guys and this girl, and it was sort of fun. And then after any adult thing happened between Dawn and one of the guys, that guy that she would have a scene with would immediately like become two-dimensional. was really pissing me off. And then I was still like not completely hating it because even though that's bad, it's sort of funny. Okay? But then I started to get frustrated because the action scenes should have been what I enjoyed most in the book because I love action scenes in vampire books, okay? However, I felt like the scenes in between the smut was just rushing to get to the next smut scene. And I was like, no, give me a full-fledged story. Don't keep rushing from like one smut scene to another. Give me a story. I'm not reading this for the smut. I mean, if you're reading it for the smut, no hate to you, but I want a full story when I read a book. I don't want just rushing between different adult scenes. There's also a lot of like really cringy scenes. Like if you go and you check my review on Goodreads, my eyes are watering because I just yawned, but if you check my review on Goodreads, I listed like, I don't know, like 20 quotes that were really cringy and low-key funny from the book. Also, can I just say, like, some of the stuff in this book was a little concerning, and I was gonna be like, this author needs to go to therapy, which, like, I say it as sort of a joke, meaning like it's unhinged, but also like legitimately there's nothing wrong with therapy and people should go to therapy. However, I was reading the author's note. The author was a therapist and she decided to switch careers so that she could write smut. And I'm just like flabbergasted. But you know, you do you. So yeah, I ended up giving this book 2 stars. It was almost a 3-star read for me, but then I got frustrated that it wasn't like fleshed out between the adult scenes, and that really like took the joy out of the book for me. So I didn't like this book, but I think it was funny. So if you want to read a book for how bad it is, like to the point where it's funny, then definitely consider giving this one a try. But you must be an adult if you want to read this book because it is not appropriate. And then I read Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Volume 8, and this is by Koyoharu Gotoge. I gave this one 5 stars. I love Demon Slayer. I have summarized Demon Slayer a lot on my channel before, but in case you don't know, in case you're like one of the few people in the universe who have never heard about Demon Slayer follows this guy whose whole family was massacred by a demon. However, one of his sisters was turned into a demon, and so she like comes back to life. Like she's a demon, like she's not human anymore, but she's not like dead, if that makes any sense. Well, she is sort of dead. I'm overthinking this as I'm describing it. So this guy Tanjiro takes his sister Nezuko and goes on a journey to try and turn her back into a human. So I freaking love this series. It is one of my favorite manga series of all time. This one like wasn't my favorite, like it was still really good, so I gave it 5 stars. I just find Rengoku to be like really derpy, but I love the Mugen Train arc and I love the creativity behind it. So I really love this one. I wouldn't say that's like one of my favorite in the series, but it's still a 5-star read and it's still making it onto my favorite books of 2023 list. And next up, I read a book that I didn't like, and this one's coming out in September, and I got an arc of this book off of NetGalley. I actually got an email, like, inviting me to read this book, and I was flattered because I'm like, this author's popular, and I've never been invited to read a book on NetGalley before. Like, I don't know if it was just sent out to, like, everyone on NetGalley, but either way, I felt special for being asked to review this book, even though I ended up not liking it. This book is called The Long Game, and it is by Elena Armas. And in case your name sounds familiar, she wrote The Spanish Love Deception, which is like uberly popular. Everyone talks about it. So this one, it actually sounded more interesting to me than The Spanish Love Deception. But yet it turned out to be so disappointing. Basically, there's this girl named Adeline, and Adeline was working for her dad's like team, like soccer team. And she had a viral video go wrong for all the wrong reasons. And so to sort of like take her out of the spotlight and to get her away from the mess, her father sends her to this small town to go coach a kids soccer team. And she doesn't really know that much about like coaching a soccer team very much. Like she did more like, I think, PR type stuff or like accounting type stuff. It's been a few weeks since I read this book, so it's not all clear in my head. But while she's there, she bumps into this guy named Cameron, and Cameron was a football star in the UK, so he's a soccer star. And he sort of like went to this town to retire, but he's helping coach out this kid's soccer team. However, he has an unfortunate encounter with Adeline, and Adeline's like, you're fired. You're not going to be the coach anymore. However, Adeline soon realizes she needs Cameron if she's going to have this team be successful, and she's giving this team her all to prove to her dad that she can live up to its expectations. Oh boy. Okay, where do I start with all my issues for this book? So I didn't like Cameron or Adeline. I felt they were both really full of themselves. I hated how Cameron acted like he was this like knight in shining armor for Adeline, which, like, if you haven't seen my video on like the situation that happened to me, I'll link it down in the description below. You should watch that about why this knight in shining armor thing specifically is really upsetting to me. And I feel like their reason for being enemies, because this is supposed to be an enemies to lovers, was very like lame. Like they just couldn't admit that either of them could be wrong. It was definitely an awkward moment, but it's no reason to like have beef with each other for like months or weeks or however freaking long it was. I was also frustrated by the fact that Elena Armis jumps from scene to scene. And the way that she jumps from scene to scene, it makes it feel like some scenes are incomplete. Like there'd be a scene where it felt like it would be a really powerful scene, whether it be just for the relationship or like for one of the characters in general, and then would abruptly fast forward to a new day and not finish that like powerful scene, and I'd be so frustrated. I feel like there's also a lot of like loose ends, like what happened to that freaking chicken? Where's the resolution to the energy drink stuff? And I got the strong impression that Matthew had feelings for Adeline. Why doesn't the story ever address that the best friend has feelings for the main girl character in the story? Like, it really frustrated me. The only thing that I really liked about this book were the hurt comfort scenes and the cats. So I ended up giving this one 2 stars. Like, I didn't like it. I think some people will like it. It just isn't for me. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna give Elena Armas another chance, just because I feel like, despite my issues with like the book as a whole, I feel like her writing style isn't for me because of her jumping from scene to scene. And unless someone can like guarantee me that it's not like that in her other books, I just don't think I'm going to give her books another try. And then I read All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Dower. Is that how you say his last name? I actually would have read more books this month if I hadn't read this chunker. So let me just describe this first before I get into my thoughts on it. All the Light We Cannot See has 2 different like plot lines that it focuses on. So it focuses on this girl, Mary Lore, and Mary Lore, she is blind and her dad works for a museum. And once the Holocaust starts, her dad is sent away with this stone. And so Mary Lore goes with her father to a different city in France where they are hiding with this stone to keep it safe because the museum tasked her father with keeping it safe. The other plotline follows Werner. Wait, it's German. Is it Werner? Werner? I'm just gonna call him Werner because that's how I like read his name in my head when I was reading this book. Werner is living in an orphanage and he gets sort of scouted by the Nazis for how like smart he is with technology, and so he joins the Nazis. And it's like focusing on their 2 different storylines, and there's also like 2 different timelines. Like there's when these 2 are kids, and then there's when they're like young adults. So this is like an acclaimed book. Like everyone loves it. It's being made into a Netflix series. I think it might be a movie. I think it's a series. Maybe it's a movie. I don't really know. And I do think it's gonna be a modern classic. Like I feel like there was a lot of great things about this book. Like I feel like Anthony Doerr has some really good imagery in here, and I feel like this story was really impactful for the light that it shined on different parts of the Holocaust that you don't often hear about. However, Anthony, my man, why the frick is this book so slow? I feel like he used too many like descriptions, and he didn't have a good balance between like action and between like descriptions. So this book was so slow, and I felt like I would never finish it. And I talked to my mom about it because I got this book because my mom and I both wanted to read it, and my mom agreed. It's so slow. It drags so badly. Like I feel like this book would be amazing. It'd be show-stopping. It'd be the best thing in the world if it wasn't so darn slow. So because of that, I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I think there was some really good things that this book did. I think it will be studied in schools in the future. I just think it really needs to fix its pacing issue if it's gonna get any bit better. And then I was like, I need the opposite of All the Light We Cannot See, since this was so slow and since it dragged so long. And I felt like this might have put me in a reading slump. Like I could feel a reading slump might be coming. So I decided to read the opposite of a depressing and slow book by reading a romance book, a queer romance specifically. So I read Girlfriend Material by Katia Rose. Girlfriend material follows two women who are both in college and they are both in their costuming department. They have been friends since they were in college, and it is a friends to lovers romance story. I did really enjoy my time with this book. I enjoy most of Katia's books. I think I've read like almost 10 of her books, and there's only been one that I haven't enjoyed. This definitely wasn't my favorite, and there's like one huge reason why this wasn't my favorite. Like, I thought that it was really cute. I thought that it was really enjoyable. I feel like it dealt with some really important issues. But the two lovers, like the two main characters, when they first start like being romantic with each other and like making out and stuff, one of them is in a relationship with another woman. And I was like, girls, stop it. This is cheating. I don't care about any reason why you are doing this, but it is straight up cheating. And it wasn't ever addressed as cheating. And I was like, this is literally cheating. So I enjoyed everything about the book besides the cheating. So if you don't like cheating in books and that's like a major deal breaker for you, then Girlfriend Material is not the book for you. However, it's so cute, and there's so many Lord of the Rings references, and I felt so proud of myself for recognizing the Lord of the Rings references, because one of my close friends made me watch the first two Lord of the Rings within the past like few months, and she's gonna make me watch the final one soon. So I was like, yay, I get the references. I'm proud of myself. My friend would be proud of me. And I also recommended this book to that friend because like it's a queer romance with Lord of the Rings references nonstop. My friend will love it. So I gave this one 4 stars. I enjoyed it. Just like, if that cheating thing hadn't been in there, this would have easily been 5 stars. But why? Why the cheating? Why? It bugs me so much. So then I wanted a quick read. So I read Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Volume 9, which part of the reason why I'm filming this video so late in the day is because I lost this book, and it took me a good 20 minutes to find the book. Apparently it had fallen off the top of my bookshelf, so I found it on my floor eventually. Don't know why I didn't check the floor sooner, but yeah, I love this arc because I love Uzui and his wives, so I love this arc, so it's a 5-star for me. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, polyamory is considered LGBTQ+, and I read 3 LGBTQ+ books for Pride Month. If not, it's fine, I just read 1. It's fine, I'm part of the community. It's fine. I can read queer books all year long. I don't have to read them only during Pride Month, right? Okay, yeah, 5 stars. Really love this one. This is one of my favorite arcs in Demon Slayer because I just love the entertainment district and I love the characters, and I love Suma. She's my favorite of Uzui's wives, and I am a Suma simp. Then I read one that I did not like, so I went from one of my favorite books of the month to one of my least favorite, well, not one of my least favorite, my absolute least favorite book for the month. This was another free iBook, so now I've read 4 iBooks this year, and I just need to read 1 more, and then I'm done with that goal of reading 5 iBooks for the year. I also think I'm gonna change my reading like challenges and goals for myself next year because I feel like I'm like overcommitting myself, and also I signed up for like a ton of local like reading programs, so like I also have that I'm trying to do. So a lot of the books that I'm reading, if they seem weird, it's probably for like a prompt on one of these. With this one, if I get 5 in a row on the bingo board, I get a $5 gift card and I think a sticker maybe, and then if I read all 25 prompts on the gift card, I get entered into a raffle. This one, every 5 books you read of the prompts, you get entered into a raffle, and this one, I forget, it's something like you get $2 off when you do 5 in a row, and you can do as many as you want, but the bookstore is like really cheap, so $2 you can get yourself a book. So yeah, I'm overcommitting myself, and I need to stop doing that because it sort of takes the joy out of reading a little bit when I overcommit myself. So this book is called The Wizard of the Wasteland. It's by John Cronshaw. This was free on the iBook store, and basically it's hard to describe it because like the synopsis sounds like clickbait. So there's this guy named Abel, and Abel sort of like scrounges for things at the wasteland after the earth has been like devastated by like a apocalyptic scenario. Don't ask me what the apocalyptic scenario is because it is never fully described in this book. I think it has something to do with chemical rain, but beyond that, I don't know why like the majority of the world's population is gone. So yeah, he's like scrounging for parts, and for part of the journey he finds this wizard guy who's like taking stuff from before the apocalypse and like trying to put on a show and be like, look at this magical item, even though it's just stuff like from before the apocalypse. It was like completely normal. But the wizard, like, this is where I feel like it's clickbait. He's in the synopsis. This book is named after him. He's barely in the freaking book, and his like parts in the book are all just like circumstantial. Like, he doesn't play a huge part in the book. He just like happens to be in the right place at the right time to be in the story a few times. So why the frick is it called The Wizard of the Wasteland? I will never know. But then the main plot that they should have like focused on entirely, that they didn't do with this plot at all, was Abel was trying to free these kids that were enslaved by a drug gang. Yeah, so I didn't like any of the characters. They all felt very two-dimensional. I felt like the whole wizard part was very clickbaity. I didn't think the world was explained well. I despise the fact that there is an inbred town in this book, and everything about that like was so gross because it's also like extremely sexist, but the book doesn't even dive into very much how sexist this inbred town is. I didn't like how like 50% of this book was just like Abel going from house to house to try and scrounge up materials to trade. Like, it was really boring. And then also I didn't like how much animal death there was, and how like the biggest animal death in the book, the freaking animal, what's a dog, because it's important to clarify dog versus other animals because dog deaths are much sadder than other animal deaths. This dog doesn't get buried right away. Like, his body's being like moved around for a while. Like, it just really disgusted me. So I hated this book. I could rant about it more. I'm not going to, or else this video will be really long, but like, don't read Wizard of the Wasteland unless you are into really slow-paced and boring books. And then I read Indian Horse by Richard Wagamise. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name. I'm taking an American Lit after 1865 course, and the course has a focus on Indigenous authors. So this was the first one that I had to read for the class. I'm so sorry that my dog's barking. I literally don't know what's going on. She has been quiet all day up until now. And then as soon as I film, she wants to cause a scene. Indian Horse follows an Indigenous boy who lives in Canada, and he had a rough childhood. He lost a lot of his family members early on, and when he is still a kid, he gets pulled from his family and dumped into a residential school, which, if you don't know the history of residential schools, it's absolutely horrific, and it's disgusting that that ever could have happened. It is really hard to read at times because of the residential school. However, at this residential school, he finds an escape and a joy in life again through hockey. So it's a story documenting what residential school is like and how the trauma of those schools impacts people. And it's also largely in part about hockey, which the hockey part really like hindered for my enjoyment of this book, because there's lengthy chapters in here that detail what's going on in hockey games and hockey practices, and I could care less. I found everything else about this book to be enjoyable, just the amount of hockey stuff in here went a bit overboard. I think it's a really hard read, but I think it's an important read because of how it deals with residential schools and racism against Indigenous people, and how it deals with alcoholism, because I liked that there was treatment for alcoholism in here. I liked how it showed that people with alcoholism can recover and find meaning and joy in life again. So I gave this one 3 stars. I think there's going to be some really good discussions about it in my class. I just think that maybe they would have been a lot better if there's a little less hockey in it. So yeah, I'm surprised actually that this book has mostly 4 and 5 star reviews on Goodreads, just because of how much hockey stuff is in here. It's really weird to me. But anyways, I did enjoy this one. I just skimmed over some of the hockey parts because the hockey parts were a bit intense for someone who's not a sports fan. So those were all 8 books I read this month. My favorite would have probably been Demon Slayer Volume 9. Least favorite would obviously be Wizard of the Wasteland. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. I have tons of other bookish videos up on my YouTube channel, so feel free to check those out if you haven't already. I think I'll have time to film a lot of videos in July. Fingers crossed, because I just think I'm gonna have time. Hopefully. So hopefully there will be more videos coming up. I'm sorry that my videos haven't been super consistent this year. This year's been rough. Yeah, it's been a rough year. Spent the first part of the year grieving my dog who passed away. And then I got COVID. And then I got groomed. Video link for that down in the description below, because I feel like it's important to talk about. So that's why I'm sort of like mentioning it now, because I'm like, you need to learn about grooming more, because I didn't know enough about it. I thought I knew enough about it, and then happened to me. And I was like, apparently I don't know enough about this freaking problem in the world. Yeah, so I hope all of you have a great July, and I'll see all of you in my next video. Until next time, goodbye.